torment and torture. And I'm laying a foundation for this, so we'll look at it in a minute. He says, Akbar al-Kabair, when he talks about the greatest of the major sins, he says it's zina. Because eventually what happens is that the wrath of God comes upon you. The punishment of this, if you look at the traditions and you'll see this, the punishment is the following. And this is now zina on micro level. In a tradition it says this. It says if a married woman, and this is also can be applicable to anyone, if a married woman who is married, not physically committing the act of zina, in the tradition it says if she gets an eyeful of someone who is a non-mahram, then what happens? In the tradition it then says, that her entire deeds are wiped out. It becomes batil. Everything that she's done in her entire life become batil. Eyeful. And you've seen it, I've heard it with my own eyes coming out of the mosque. Married women who are like, that guy's cute. Honestly. And you laugh, but you know it makes sense and you know it happens. Guys saying that, married guys, look at that girl, she's cute as well, if I used to say in term. Just to be fair. But one look and you laugh. But in the tradition it says it makes your entire a'mal batil. Everything goes. If you look at the philosophy of fasting, if you look at the khutbah of the Prophet, he says the highest levels of fasting, the acceptance of fasting is that you protect your eyes. So protect your eyes, otherwise zina. And what happens when this zina begins to take place? There are three things. And in fact, if a woman was to commit zina then, what does Allah say? Torment in the grave and burning in the hereafter. In fact, you begin to burn in this life. There are three sins, 6 altogether. 3 to do with this world, 3 to do in the hereafter. If you look at it and you'll see that. What is Allah trying to say? Your risk is decreased. And you know, a lot of times, you look at the wrong person in the wrong way. Problems come in your life. You become very animalistic in a way. There's a time which comes in your life, you're feeling lonely. You think it's fine. But you're talking to a guy or a girl on the phone and you justify that we're not seeing each other. But what is the age of sin telling you? Even that conversation that leads to haram, even that conversation that leads to flirting, even that friendship that destroys you, what's happening? And the Prophet of God has given you an option. He said, go and get temporarily married in these situations. This is an institution that we are not using today because we see it as dirty, but what you're seeing is that all of our children around us are doing this. Go onto Facebook. All these pictures that come up, and be very careful. Hugging and kissing and flirting and up and down the walls. Muhammad, is your birthday today? Oh, you were looking very lovely today. Zainab, your hijab was beautiful and I liked your eye makeup. This is what's happening. What is this? This is on a level of sin. It's destructive. It's destroying our societies. Akbar al-Kabair. Why? Because it destroys the fabrics of your society and you're passing this within your progeny. Whether it's in your nutfa or in your rahim, it's passing. And your children are gaining these attributes. And when your children come out, they are destroying your families. If you look at one of the philosophies, why is this tahreem of zina there? Why? Because it destroys families. In the same way in a tradition it says, why is homosexuality, lawat, being neutralized? Is because it destroys the generations as well. These are those sins that destroys. And you're finding within our societies it's becoming rampant. It's all over the place. Facebook and Twitter has opened this. This wasn't apparent 10 years ago. But in the last 4 or 5 years, what you're seeing is there's a destruction of our own societies and our own communities and our own people. And so it's important for us then to prevent this. If you look at the torments of this, you find what? Poverty hits you. When zina starts, the Prophet of God has said, Akhir zaman, what will we see? Earthquakes, natural disasters. Look at those areas where zina is rampant, you find natural disasters. LA, Miami, places in Japan. Look at just the specifics on that. Look at the research on that. And see, there where exploitation is increased, where the nafs is going crazy, what you find is slowly Allah's torments come. Sudden death increases. Next time you think about getting your eye full, think about this. Think about your life. Think about the decreasing of your life. Think about sudden death. If God forbid you ever taken to a zina, and in tradition it says that when you are aroused, 2/3 of your intellect goes out the way. Don't put yourself in that situation where you can do that. It can happen to anyone. There's a tradition like this as well. You know what the tradition is? The tradition is that in the time of the Bani Israel, there was a man and he was very pious. He was very pious. He was a Zahid, he was an Abid, he was an Arif. But you know what happened? One day, you find that people would come to him and they would say to him, pray for us. And a father comes and he says that my daughter, she has paralysis. If you were to pray for her, you know what would happen? You'd help her. She'd be cured. He says, fine, bring her to my cave. There he begins to pray. And when he prays, she recovers. And afterwards, he's about to go to sleep. But he looks towards her and the Satan hits. This is why they say, men and women shouldn't be alone. One man and one woman. The third person is Satan. This person who's an Abid, who's a Zahid, who's an Arif, he goes and he commits zina with her. And then he realizes what he's done. He kills her. And after he kills her, he buries her. And so the people are looking, but they don't suspect him. But the Satan comes along and he wants to destroy this person. And he says, he indicates, he says, she's buried over there, under where he sits. And they go and they dig him up. Dig it up. And they see that this woman's dead body comes out. His entire reputation is destroyed. Everything that he built for is destroyed. Everything that was is gone. Think about it for yourself as well. All of your life, 25 years of my life I've spent with God, worshipping God. One moment can destroy you. Don't ever put yourself in a situation where that can take place. This is what it is. They say that there are 3 sins which are the same as idol worshipping. Imagine when you come to your deathbed. One of them is stealing, the other is drinking, but the other one is zina.